Hello, lovely yogi. Welcome to Flow with Shreya. I'm Shreya, and today I'm bringing you another pose breakdown. Today we'll be going over standing forward fold, also known as Uttanasana. There are a few different variations of standing forward folds, and I'd like to go over how to get in and out of this pose, all the different variations and modifications you can take, as well as the benefits of the pose. Standing forward folds have some similarities to seated forward folds, which I've done an entire video on, so if you're interested, I'll link that up here as well as in the description bar in case you want to check it out. There are also some major differences when it comes to folding forward while in a seated position versus a standing position. I'll go over some of these differences in this video as well. So if you want to learn more about standing forward folds, come flow with me. Standing forward folds are a part of most yoga flows, and for good reason. There are so many benefits of this pose. Physically, it's a great stretch for your lower body as well as your back. Mentally, it can help relieve anxiety, stress, depression, and bring calmness into your nerves as well as your body. I always say that if you're in a difficult situation, flipping your perspective by quite literally turning upside down can help you snap out of that stressful state. Before we get started learning about standing forward folds, there are a few contraindications which I'd like to share with you. If you have high or low blood pressure, glaucoma, or any injuries in your neck or spine, you really want to be careful about this and maybe even consult your doctor or a yoga therapist before you practice these forward folds. With some of these conditions, you might be able to practice a forward fold with a wall or do a seated forward fold, but definitely look into it and consult your doctor or a yoga therapist for your individual needs before you move on. So let's start with the basics. Whenever you're folding forward from a standing position, you want to have a really strong base. This means grounding down through your feet. I have an entire video specifically on doing that, which I'll link in the cards as well as in the description in case you want to check it out. But that's where we start. A stable, strong base. So for a simple forward fold, you can have your feet close together or even bring them hips width distance apart. Now take a look at your feet. Notice all of the points of contact that your feet are making with your mat. Really find that strong base and then begin to lift upward. As you lift up, hug your belly button up and then engage your core. You can have an engaged core, engaged legs throughout your forward fold, and then lengthen through the spine. Inhale, send your arms up overhead, and as you exhale, take your arms wide and begin to hinge at the hips. I'm going to turn over so you can see from the side. Your hips right here in the center where your torso and your legs meet. And this is where you want to hinge. And you want to keep your spine as straight as possible on your way down. Hugging the belly button up and in creates space for you to fold. Exhale as you dangle your arms down. Now, if your fingertips reach the mat, that's great. If your palms reach the mat, that means you're quite flexible in your hamstrings. But if none of this happens and your arms are just dangling, that's fine too. You can always bend your knees in order to reach the mat. Many of us have tighter hamstrings or calves, and this is where bending the knees really comes in handy. Another option you have is to use some props when it comes to a forward fold. You can use blocks on their tallest side or on their flat side, depending on what your range of flexibility and motion is. And breathe. Again, continuing to attempt to keep the spine as straight as you can, but knowing that some natural curvature is totally normal. Breathe in and out. Now, a lot of times when you go into a forward fold, we tend to bring all of our weight in our heels. I encourage you to try and shift your weight slightly forward and notice where this stretch moves. It might intensify a little bit here. And it might feel scary to lean forward, but notice sensation. And know that with your palms either on your mat or on your blocks, you are not going to fall forward. Maybe even allow your eyes to close. Allow your head to dangle here. Nod your head gently, yes and no. Relax your shoulders. And breathe. And with each exhale, notice if you can go a little bit deeper. Notice if you can hug your chest towards your thighs just a little bit more. As you inhale, lift up just halfway. You can bring your palms to your shins or to your thighs. Straighten out the spine. Look just slightly ahead of your mat. And inhale, rise up all the way. Exhale your palms to heart center. Again, if you're bending your knees, this is what that might look like. Inhale your arms up. Exhale, swan dive as you fold forward. Bend your knees as you go down so that your fingertips can reach the mat. And then begin to shift your weight slightly forward as you allow your head to release and hug your chest towards your thighs. Bend your knees as deeply as you need to. Take a few deep breaths. And with your knees bent, gently roll up one vertebrae at a time. And shake out your legs here. Now that is your basic, simple forward fold. Things to keep in mind to engage your core as you create space for that fold. You can always bend your knees as much as you need to. And if your fingertips don't reach the ground, you can always use blocks. And if you don't have any blocks, you can always use a stack of books or a sturdy box as well. Now this is the basic forward fold you would use in a sun salutation or just a regular vinyasa flow. You can also have a few different variations, especially in a traditional Ashtanga yoga practice, where you hold these forward folds for a few breaths at a time. One of the variations of a standing deep forward fold in an Ashtanga practice is Padanghustasana. In this variation, you are keeping your feet hips-width distance apart, and then as you fold, you are going to hook your peace fingers around your big toes. Again, if this doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can always just do that basic forward fold that we already went over. But if you want to try it, come along. Again, ground down through your feet, hug your belly button up and in. Inhale, reach your arms up, lengthen your spine. Exhale as you fold. Remember, if your fingertips don't reach your toes, you can always bend your knees. In fact, begin by bending your knees so you can safely wrap your peace fingers around your big toes. And then as you find that bind, you can gently begin to fold forward and straighten out your legs. Only go as far as your body will allow you to. Again, release your neck here. Don't hold on or squeeze tension in those muscles. And while you are grasping onto your big toes, you can use your biceps here to pull your chest closer to your thighs. And this will help you activate and get deeper into the stretch. Again, hug your belly button up and in to create space for that fold. And breathe. Exhale, release your fingertips to the mat. Inhale, rise up one vertebrae at a time. Again, remember, you can keep your knees bent throughout that entire posture. The next variation of this posture is where you slide your palms completely underneath your feet. Now, if you have bracelets or a watch or something on your wrist, I recommend sliding it a little bit further away from your wrist if possible. And then again, keeping your feet hips width distance apart, Inhale your arms up, engage your core. Exhale and fold forward. And once you've folded forward, slide your palms underneath your feet, one palm at a time. Just lift the toes, slide the palm under. Lift the other toe, slide the palm under. Again, you can bend your knees as much as you need to here to get to this space. If this is enough for you, stay here. If you can, with each exhale, allow your legs to straighten just as much as it feels right to you. Again, hug your chest towards your thighs. They never have to touch. And while you're here, you might feel that your toes are touching your wrists. And you can wiggle your toes gently to even massage your wrists in this space. In this space, not only are we getting a really deep stretch in the backs of our legs, but we're also compressing our palms, stretching out our wrists, and stretching out our backs. On your next exhale, release your palms to the mat. Inhale, rise up one vertebrae at a time. Now all of those variations were with your feet hips width distance apart. You can also take a standing forward fold with your feet wider. One variation is where you can just take your feet mat distance apart and inhale, ground down through your feet, lift up through your spine. Exhale, reach forward, spine is nice and long, and then release your fingertips to the mat. Bend your knees if you need to. Breathe here. You can even shift side to side. This is a great space to also take a twist from. So bring your right palm to the center of your mat, and then bending into your right knee, inhale your left arm up. Now notice if one hip wants to lift up higher than the other, and encourage your hips to be in line with each other. Finding this twist here, breathe in and out. Exhale the left palm to replace your right, bend your left knee. Inhale the right arm up. You can keep both knees bent, or you can straighten out the right leg here. Exhale both palms to the mat, generous bend in your knees, and then inhale, rise up one vertebrae at a time. Another variation of forward fold is also known as Ragdoll pose. In this space, we're really allowing gravity to help us in this forward fold, and we aren't necessarily using our fingertips on the mat. So again, you can take your feet hips width distance apart here, or even wider if it feels good to you. Inhale your arms up. Another way to enter into a forward fold is bringing your palms through heart center. So we'll do that this time. Bring your palms through heart center as you hinge at the hips. Reach your chest towards the top of your mat as long as you can. And then once you've reached your range of motion, allow your chest to fold towards your thighs. This time you can grab onto opposite forearms or elbows. Release your shoulders, release your neck, and just hang here like a rag doll. Again, you can shift slightly forward onto the balls of your feet to feel a deeper stretch. You can find stillness here, or you can even sway side to side, maybe even bend one knee and then the other. And this pose is particularly good for bringing peace and calmness into your mind and body. Notice the pull of gravity. And deepen your breath. Exhale, release your palms. Bend the knees. Inhale, rise up one vertebrae at a time. Shake it out. Next, we'll move on to a wide leg forward fold, and this is going to be wider than mat distance apart, so take a turn towards the long edge of your mat if you aren't already there, and then take your feet wide. I generally like to suggest starting with one leg distance apart, but as you feel this in your body, you can go wider or shorter and figure out what works best for you or what you need that specific moment. So as you start here, take a moment to look at your feet. If your toes are pointed out, go ahead and bring them to point slightly towards each other or directly towards the long edge of your mat. And you can take your heels just a tad apart. So as we start here, you can bring your palms to your hips. Inhale and lengthen your spine, engage your core. And as you exhale, begin to hinge at the hips. Again, continue to point your chest forward for as long as you can. And once you reach that space, go ahead and continue to hinge and fold forward. Now, I prefer to take my feet just a little bit wider. So I'm going to touch my fingertips to the ground and heel toe my feet wider. Again, you always have the option of using your blocks here as a place to rest your palms. Breathe here. If your palms do reach the ground, you can keep them on the floor, elbows bent. You can bring the fingertips in line with your toes if that feels good for you, or you can keep the palms ahead of your feet. In this space, you also have the option of grabbing opposite ankles or opposite toes. Breathe in and out. Wherever you are, allow your neck to be soft and not tense. Again, take a second to shift your weight slightly forward. Instead of sinking your hips back, you're really bringing your hips in line with your ankles and knees here, making that straight line, and you might notice that this will intensify the stretch. Don't be afraid to lean your body forward as you breathe, hugging your belly button up and in. And you might even notice as your flexibility begins to increase that your forehead might reach the mat. And if that does happen, that can be a great space to start to practice a headstand from. But we're not going to go into that today. We're just folding forward, feeling that intense stretch in the backs of our legs. Inhale and lift up halfway. And this is another great space to take that twist from. So bring your right palm in the center. Inhale, lift the left palm up. Again, notice if your hips want to go out of line with each other, and just gently encourage them to align. Exhale, replace the right palm with the left. Inhale, send the right arm up. Breathe here. Exhale, both palms down. And gently bring your palms to your hips, engage your core, and rise. Coming back to standing, shake out your legs. And there you have it. Those are the different variations you can take in a standing forward fold, as well as some modifications you can take with blocks. And there you have it. The different variations you can take with a standing forward fold, as well as some tips and modifications that might help you enhance the pose throughout your practice. The key is to find a stable base to fold from, grounding down through the feet, keeping the legs strong and engaged throughout the entire process, keeping the core engaged, and you hinge at the hips, keeping your spine as long as possible for as long as possible. Remember, in any forward fold, hugging that belly button up and in will create space for that fold. And when you're in a standing forward fold, notice if you tend to shift your weight back towards your heel, and try to shift it slightly forward, evening out that weight, or maybe even shifting the weight towards the ball of your feet. And this might intensify the stretch in the backs of your legs. I hope you learned something new from this video and that you can get the maximum benefit of standing forward fold in your next practice. Remember, you can practice this pose at any time, even if you're not on your mat or in a full-on yoga practice. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so that more people can find this video. In fact, you can also share this video with those you care about as well as on social media. If you share it on social media, be sure to tag me at Flow with Shreya. Let me know in the comments below which pose you'd like me to break down next. The clothing I'm wearing, the mat I was practicing on, as well as any props we've used will be linked in the description bar below in case you find that helpful. If you want to practice standing forward fold in a flow, check out any of my vinyasa videos here on this channel. You can also find a number of pose breakdowns in my pose breakdown playlist linked right here. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.